Hi, I'm Carolyn Lawson. I'm going to be your student's living environment teacher this year. This is my 7th year with the Clyde-Savannah School District. I've taught middle school life sciences, middle school physical sciences, family and consumer sciences to middle school kids, agriculture, earth science for Regents courses, and more recently this year, living environment, which for those of you who are a little older, it's basically biology with an environmental focus. So here we have what I've shown the kids at the beginning of the year. So they may have brought it home and shown you. This is our course syllabus, and I'm joined by Mrs. Waldron, first period, third period, Mrs. Warren, and 7th period, Mrs. Gosh. This year, we're going to study all kinds of different things: scientific method, lab procedures, classification. We spend some time talking about what makes something living and not living, and that gets us into cells and genetics, how the cells work, evolution, how we believe the earth has changed and different organisms have changed, into plants and photosynthesis, different systems through that plants use, and then we get into human body systems, ecology, and environmental issues, some of which we have caused ourselves as a people, some of which happen out there because of different situations. Materials students need, pretty much the typical 3-ring binder, pencils, pens. I do have calculators in the room. The school did very nicely give everybody a calculator this year. Grading, classwork's 30%. I've got details here. Let's just say that classwork varies. Sometimes it's independent work, sometimes it's group work, sometimes we do it as a whole class. Not everything gets graded exactly, perfectly right, perfectly wrong. A lot of times I grade it on effort, and you can see down here where it says 100% good effort on time. Doesn't mean everything is exactly perfect, but effort was put into the classwork. 85, most of the work's pretty good. Kids work steadily on it, and it's handed in on time. Incomplete, maybe only 3/4 of it got done, or even if it was all done, it was not done well. And then we get 65, that's for late. If the students turn content in late, a lot of the times, if we've already gone over it, I will not accept it for a full grade. It can only get a 65. Poor work done either on time or late can be less than a 65. So a student who doesn't do something, waits for us to go over in class, thinks I can now hand this in and get 100, that's not going to work, because it's not fair to kids who did it on time. If they get a 70 and now we've gone over it in class, then someone turns it in after they've gotten the answers from class, that they would get 100. And a 0 is no homework turned in before the deadline. Tests and quizzes, 50% of the marking period grade. One of the reasons for that is because this is a Regents course, which we'll talk about in a minute, and it has a very test-driven process that goes with it in terms of if a student does not pass the Regents, they do not pass the course, regardless of what the actual class averages each quarter. Labs are very, very important. They are 20% of the course grade. Lab groups, sometimes the kids pick their own, sometimes I pick them, sometimes we'll do them as demonstrations. All labs must be in by June 1st in order to be considered for what we call the lab requirement, which is down here in red. So New York State requires that students successfully complete 1,200 minutes of laboratory work to sit for the Regents. So last 2 years ago, the Regents did not exist for living environment. Last year, we strongly encouraged students to take the exam, even though they did not have to pass it in order to pass the course. We don't know what's going to happen this year. I can keep you informed when we find out what the state says we're doing. But the lab requirement must be met by earning passing grades on labs. So I keep track of how long each lab takes. Typically, a class period is 40 minutes. And so I record 40 minutes. So if it takes 40 minutes and a kid gets a 65 or higher on it, they will get the credit for the lab as a assignment in the class, but they will also get 40 minutes towards their lab requirement. And that will often show up on School Tool. Parents will be concerned because the child got a 40 or a 60. All that means under lab minutes is that it's not that they got a 60% grade, it just means that they have met 60 minutes. The actual assignment will receive a class grade, and that just says usually what the lab is. If it's minutes, it will have minutes in the assignment title. It's very, very important. Students that do not meet the laboratory requirement will not earn credit for the course, nor may they take the Regents exam. That's state law, not the district's. Also, summer school cannot be attended if the lab requirement is not met during the regular year. They don't have time in summer school to be doing labs. So if your student typically has attended summer school in order to get class credit, that's the lab requirement must be met ahead of time. So projects, those will fit under tests, quizzes, depending on how long or involved it is, or classwork. Behavioral expectations, pretty much standard everywhere. We expect kids to be respectful, on task, have good citizenship, be kind to each other, and have good safety procedures. As it says up here, I tell the kids, do what you're supposed to do, when you're supposed to do it, how you're supposed to do it, and don't be what the kids would say, a jerk. Just be nice to people. And there's more specifics in here. Here's online Zoom expectations, which are a little bit more detailed down here. Basically, be on time, keep your mic muted. When you're asked to turn on your camera, do so. No chatting unless it's to ask the teacher a question. I believe the district turned off that option for students to chat back and forth. And this is a big one. Students do not have permission to videotape or take pictures of our Zoom meeting, any people in it, anything that's there, that's in our code of conduct. And if students do not adhere to and follow these rules, then they will be removed from the meeting for that lesson. Class preparedness, typical things for most classes. Bring a pen, pencils, any homework, classwork. This is a new one for us in the district, a charged Chromebook. I do have a few chargers here in the room that I do let students borrow. Notebook and binder, very important to keep, or folder, to keep papers in. Physical needs taken care of. That's a big one we're having to deal with this year. Kids want to come to class and always get a drink, always go to the restroom. And I'm going to be trying to cut down some of that because of our frequent flyers out the door. And if everybody wants to cycle through a class of 24, it takes a long time, and it's just total continuous chaos and interruption. So I'm really going to start limiting that soon. And a positive attitude, I just expect kids to try their best. We're not all good at everything. I'm not good at everything. I get that some kids are going to struggle with science. We're in here together to get through it. I'm here to help the students. If they are willing to put the time in, I can help them out. Students are expected to make up missed work within a reasonable amount of time. So if they're out a day, they should make their work up within a day or so and get that into me. Students are expected to leave personal electronics in their lockers or out of sight and follow the school's policy. So phones are not to be in class. If phones are being used in class, they will be asked to bring their phone to the office, and we will follow the school procedures for that in terms of the school keeping it when it gets back to the student if a parent has to pick it up. Our course materials, we are going to be varied. Information regarding assignments will be in Google Classroom, always under, usually I put what we're doing specifically under the stream, and then the actual assignments the kids can click on to see what they're doing. I just want parents to be aware, just because a student hits the little turn in button in Google Classroom does not mean the assignment was actually done. Students can hand in blank sheets. That's a game that they played for a while. Parents would say, I looked on my kid's Google Classroom, everything is handed in. Well, they handed it in, but the actual work was not done. We'll be using some websites. Links will be given usually through Google Classroom, so they can watch videos, read materials, or do lab simulations. Edpuzzle, that's an online service I use and subscribe to that has a video that I then add questions to. Pauses as the video plays so students can answer comprehension questions, practice a skill if that's what it is. We have a new textbook series this year. We have the Houghton Mifflin Harcourt Dimensions Biology. So that's following the NIST list, New York State Science Learning Standards, which have changed to follow the NGSS science standards as well. And I'll be getting out our physical copies. Students will have access to an electronic digital version as well. I just have to get that going. Parents and guardians, here's my email address. That's probably one of the best ways to get me during the day. I did send people a talking points this past Sunday. So on the 3rd, on the 3rd, so if you want, you can return a message to me that way. you can use the regular Talking Points app and go that way. You're always welcome to call the school and have a message sent to me. Students did do an assignment at the beginning of the year, because I want to make sure every student could contact me. So they did send me an email. So if a student needs to know what is it we did in class, I'm not going to be there, whatever the problem, they know how to send me an email. Students also know how to access Google Classroom. They also know how to access Edpuzzle. They also can check on School Tool. I had students log into School Tool while they were here. So anytime you ask your student, what do you owe? They shouldn't say, I don't know. You and your students can go to School Tool and look up the information that's there. If you go to School Tool and you see assignments that say M next to them, typically a 0 with an M means missing. An assignment that has a L after it, that's late, and an EX, it means it's excused, so that's not counting for or against a student. So I think that's mostly it. I want to thank you for watching the video, being an active part with your students' education, and hopefully parents and students and myself, we can all have a very successful year and have our students pass and be able to enjoy a nice summer with no summer school. So thank you very much and have a great rest of your day. Bye.